I've made rather a few movies in the past month, and I will make more of them, I know, about why I feel feminism is a hate movement and is negative, both for women and men, to be honest, for society at large. But I understand that people might hear this and think I'm anti-woman. Not that I really care, people can think whatever they want, but I thought to myself, you know what, why not make a small movie mentioning, celebrating, well, however you want to call it, women that I really admire. I might not agree with their points of view, but I admire what they did and what they meant for society. So I hope you'll enjoy this one too. Okay, the first woman I would like to mention is Aung San Suu Kyi, or Do Aung. This is a politician in Myanmar, and she's been resisting the Myanmar government, the junta, in a non-violent way, trying to get the country to open up more and get people to be, the government to be more positive towards its own people. She has been running for president, even though she knows she can't win because she's married to, well, a foreigner, someone not from Burma, and the laws have been changed that if you are married to someone from a different country, you cannot become um, president. And this law has probably been made specifically to stop her because she is immensely popular in Burma. She was married to an Englishman. Unfortunately, she couldn't be there when he died. She couldn't be there when he got buried because she was either in house arrest or in prison. When she was in prison, I'm not quite sure if it's at the same time, but when she was in prison, they once offered her that she could go to any country, she could leave Myanmar, but she would not be allowed to come back. So she never did that. This must have been pretty hard for her, I'm sure. This is a woman that, despite all the losses she's incurred, despite all the things that she's given up, still she tries to do good for her people. Not just for the women, not just for a small group of people, but for all the people in Myanmar. I am willing to state that at this point in time, this is probably the best person on this world. And I cannot encourage people enough to read up on her and try to live in her image. She's not perfect, she's not a saint, she's just a human, but she's trying to do good, and one can only admire that. The second person I'm going to mention is Helen Keller. This is a girl that, well, a woman, because she's dead by now, but okay, she was a woman, that in her early life she got a disease which made her deaf and blind. And even though she was deaf and blind, she was able to work herself up, eventually earning a Bachelor of Arts degree. And she was a very important person in the early 20th century America. She was a member of the Socialist Party. Um, she was a member of Industrial Workers of the World. She campaigned for women's suffrage. She campaigned for social rights and for socialism. And all in all, she was a very vocal person. But what makes it especially powerful is that she had to come from a very dark place indeed, because remember, she was deaf and she was blind. Now, obviously, I don't 100% agree with everything Helen Adams Keller has done. I mean, she was someone campaigning for women's suffrage at a time when not all men had the right to vote either. So, in a way, there was some form of segregation. This is what I dislike about feminism, and she was someone within the feminist movement that did, well, a lot. Whether I agree with her or not, does not in any way diminish the achievements that she has managed. I mean, there are plenty of person in the world, men or women, who are not deaf and blind, or even deaf or blind, that have earned a bachelor. So this speaks to the character of the woman, and for this she thoroughly deserves to be applauded, and as such I feel I should. Okay, the next one I'm going to mention, give honorable recognition to, is Joanne Rowling, also known as J.K. Rowling. For those of you who do not know who she is the author of several books, amongst which the Harry Potter series. And she is probably, as far as I can tell, the first writer to have earned over 1 billion with writing books. I'm sorry. That is fucking amazing. I mean, how can you not recognize what she did? The skill it would have taken, the the yeah, it- flabbergasted. Seriously, I can't exclaim loud enough the achievement of this woman. And she's a mother, and she has kids, and she does what she can to do to help her kids. And she's a person. She tries to be a good person. All in all, this is someone I can not only admire, I can see other people admiring her as well, as she's earned that right. Not just because she wrote a lot of books and made a lot of money out of it, but also the way she kept being herself, basically. I'm yeah, I'm well impressed with J.K. Rowling. If I would ever to meet this woman, I'm not even sure if I could give her any normal question, because and I'm not a fan of Harry Potter, don't get me wrong. I'm not. I mean, I've seen the movies and that's about it. But the skill going into writing books that, well, I mean, most of the books have been translated in up to almost 70 languages. I mean, there is there is no contesting that the Harry Potter series were among the best books written for a long time. And she did that. Okay, the next woman I'm going to mention, not all of us know. Um, Margaret Thatcher, or better known as the Iron Lady, was part of the Great British Conservative Party, and she was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1979 till 1990. I'm sorry, that's an achievement for anyone, male or female. And I had to put her in the list of women I admire. And at the same time, I can only stress so loudly that most of the points she actually stood for are absolutely no points I stood for, or will stand for, or have ever stood for. But one cannot deny the power she held and the power she claimed. She was a very strong politician, and she did lead a country through difficult times. And though, I mean, she's been dead for a few years now, um, the world lost a powerful woman when Margaret Thatcher died. Again, I do not agree with a political stance. I do not agree with her way of governing the country, but one cannot deny that she was a very powerful head of state. And people that lived during that era still know her. Whether they like her or whether they hate her, they still know who she is. And the one thing that I always find very amusing is that feminists will do whatever they can to not mention Margaret Thatcher, because Margaret Thatcher was very clear in that everything she achieved, feminism was just a detriment. The things she achieved despite feminism, not because. She was always very clear that feminism had no love for her, and she definitely had no love for feminism. Well, you can only admire a woman that gets to the position she got in and then still says, yeah, you know what, you want to be a feminist? Go ahead. But don't bother me with that nonsense. The next one I'm going to mention, I have to admit I don't know much about. This is mostly because she is a woman that spoke to the imagination, or at least to my imagination. This is going to be Amelia Earhart. She was, of course, a very famous pilot in the early years of aviation, and she specifically gained fame by being the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. I guess she also gained fame for disappearing, and this is why I can really not say a lot about Amelia Earhart, other than that she was, well, as I said, a female pilot, and she wasn't the only one. There were more of them, and there still were during the Second World War, for example, etc., etc., etc. But she speaks to the imagination. This is a woman that kept pushing the boundaries. I have no idea how she was as a person. I have no idea what her political affiliations would have been. That being said, though, this is a woman that dared to go into the unknown. This is an ability I hope I will be able to part with my son, because it's amazing. She earns a right in the Hall of Fame if something like that would exist. She was a powerful woman. Now, considering all the women I've done so far, you'd think none of them would be scientists, but obviously there would be a scientist, because the next one I'm going to mention is Madame Curie, or Maria Solomea Skłodowska-Curie. This is a Polish-French woman. Well, she was Polish, but she married to a French guy. And her research on radioactivity earned her 2 Nobel Prizes. And I don't think there have been a lot of people that got 2 Nobel Prizes. The research she did in polonium and radonium and the other forms of radioactivity, actually she discovered polonium and radonium, the other ones were already there, have been used in a lot of different research areas, in healthcare, or in the production of energy, etc., etc., etc. This is not done by her, but it's definitely been made possible by her. And she eventually died because of the effects of radioactivity. But if you were to name the best scientists or the most influential scientists of the last 200 years, I'm pretty sure no one could make a list where she would not be on. I was thinking about maybe leaving her for last, but I decided not to. But this is a very good example of a woman in what we would now call a STEM field. And she was an amazing scientist, no matter how you would like to call it. Now, again, I don't know a lot about the personality of this woman. I haven't read a lot about her. The one thing that I do know is what I just said about the radioactivity, etc. She is someone that made modern world possible, and for this she earns to be applauded. I wanted to say exploded, fuck that, applauded. She's an amazing woman, she was. And from the STEM field we go back to normal people. The next person, the next woman I feel has earned her spot in history is Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks. Those of you who don't know her, this was the woman that in 1955 decided that she would not be directed to the back of the bus. Um, Back in those days, it was normal that white people were sitting in the front of the bus and black people had to move to the back. She was a civil rights activist, and her act of defiance was one of the many drops on a hot plate that made the strife of the black people in America more and more visible. She wasn't the only civil disobedient black person, but the protest of Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks was one of the better recognized, better remembered. I don't know. She was later recognized by uh, a lot of important people, amongst which Bill Clinton, to name but one, and her, well, as I said, her act made the segregation fall down a bit faster. Now, I don't know Rosa Parks. I don't know a lot about her. I mean, it could be that she did it because she was a mean person or whatever. Maybe. But the fact that she did do this, and she went to jail for it, or at least she had a fine and then she didn't pay the fine and then she went to jail for it, means that she stood by her principles and her beliefs. And in this case, she's on the right side of history. And for this, she earned our respect. Whether we agree with her 100% or not, she earned our respect. Okay, the next one I'm going to mention, we're going to go back into broadcasting, is Oprah Winfrey. She, with right, was called the Queen of Daytime Television for the longest time. She has been broadcasted in over 150 countries. For 25 years, she's been broadcasted in the US of A. She had 40 million people a day look at her show. Her current net worth is 3 point something bill. So she is one of the richest persons in the world. Um, there's lots of things we can say about her, but she reached a lot of people. She launched the careers of a lot of people as well. For example, Dr. Phil and a few of the other guys. I'm not really a big fan of Oprah Winfrey myself, nor of Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz and all those spin-offs. But with all the best intentions, I cannot deny the fact that she has been a very powerful media person. I mean, she's been dubbed the queen of the media. She's met several presidents, as far as I remember. They wanted to talk to her, or at least that's how it seemed. Um, so, yeah, I mean, you want a powerful woman. Oprah Winfrey is definitely one of them. The next person I'm going to mention is Temple Grandin. She's an American professor of animal science, and she invented a way to get cattle from one point to the next point in slaughterhouses more efficiently and more calmly and more humanely. Now, I have to admit, the first time I learned of her was from the movie based on her life. And of course, I don't have the name of that movie ready. I'm sorry. But yeah, just look it up. I mean, Temple Grandin, people, you can't miss her. If I look at that movie, one of the things I also notice that the actor is playing a great role, and Temple Grandin suffers from something within autism spectrum syndrome. I'm not 100% sure which form of autism she has, but she has autism. Watching the movie, I would guess it would probably be something like PDD-NOS. But then again, I never was there when she heard her diagnosis. I have no information on it. And at the same time, I don't care about the information on it. This is a woman that, despite her difficulties, achieved something that a lot of people will have to applaud. I mean, I'm absolutely impressed by what she achieved. Even if she did not have autism, which she does, which makes her achievement all the more amazing. So yeah, I could not make a list and not put Temple Grandin in there. And the list is not in order. It's not that someone is more than the other, but I mean she was mentioned in a group of people that people would claim as heroes of society, and yes, she definitely belongs among them. She has been, well, I mean, a great example for people with autism that a diagnosis in itself does not have to be the end all of her position. I mean, she's got a bachelor in psychology. I don't have a bachelor in psychology, and psychology is a hobby of mine. So she outperforms me on something that I myself find interesting as well. Now, of course, there are lots of things you can say, yeah, but blah, blah, blah. No, she did this. This is something we should recognize and applaud her for. Everyone that does it, obviously. I mean, it's not that she now suddenly is the be all and end all, but she did this. She achieved stuff that most people, even people with full degrees, have not achieved. She's now currently a professor of animal science at the Colorado State University, as far as I can find. And there are more people who are a professor at universities. So why are you mentioning her and not others? Because I know of her. And there's a movie about her. So I'm not the only one who thinks she's important. Other people are important too. Well, yeah. But she is a hero. She achieved a lot, and I am well impressed by her. Now, obviously, there are more women that I admire, and there are more women that could earn a spot in this list. But I picked women that I think earned international recognition and should have this already. So, okay, my whole movie so far, it has been a bit sluggish. I found it very difficult to make. Not because I doubt anything I said, not because I don't believe these people earned uh, a spot in the spotlights. These are people we as a world should hold dear. But this is maybe my upbringing. I find it difficult to push someone forward like this and applaud them like this, but they earned it. And this is for me. I find it difficult to do, but at the same time, it's a good thing for me to do as well because I actually mean it, and it gives me practice because there's nothing wrong with complimenting persons. For example, there could have been other people in the list because the previous Queen of the Netherlands, now Princess Beatrix, also definitely earned a role among these people because she is a great leader of a country. And yes, of course, she's the queen, therefore people find her important. But during disasters, people actually saw her as the mother of the nation. And when there was a disaster in Amsterdam, when a plane of El Al flew into a flat, a lot of people died. But the fact that the queen gave an active presence, not at the very moment, of course not, but yeah, people did not only recognize it, but they found strength in it because of it. Um, so, okay, that's the last one I'm going to name. Have there been powerful women in the world? Yes, there still are, obviously. Is this proof that a patriarchy doesn't exist? Oh, fuck that. I'm not even going to answer that one. That doesn't get any dignification from me because, well, maybe a little bit of a dignification of it, because believing in a patriarchy is believing in, ooh, let's name something nice, unicorns. Of course, you can claim they are there. No one has ever seen it, but you can put all sorts of stories towards them. These are women that achieved more than any of us. And yet still we're going to talk about a patriarchy. Fuck off. These women achieved what they did because what they did. So there is no misogyny, misandry, or any other bullshit. These women deserved and earned our respect. And man, I'm falling back. But okay, this is the story I made. I made this small movie to, I hopefully show to people, and I hopefully open the eyes on some of these people. And you might have your own list of men and women. I specifically didn't do any men, and of course there could be men among this list. If I were to make a list of people who earned my respect, these women would be in there. There would be men in there, obviously, but these women would be in there too. But now I just made a movie about women, so I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day.